Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. I think we're live now. I think we're good to go. We had some delays, some technical issues, but that should not stop us from doing what we have to do. And just basically, before I bring in our guest and before I start my guest start speaking, I will just go straight into the show just to say a bit of what we do and introduce myself. My name is Sandra Ukoh. I'm a Maxwell Leadership Certified Team Member, Speaker, and Coach. I'm also a sales expert of over 20 years in the IT industry. I'm also the author of the book Can Anything Hold You Back and a member of the Toastmaster International. And weekly, we this show is known as Making a Difference with Sandra Ukoh. We bring people to share their story of how they've been, what they've been, how life has been for them, and how they're making a difference in their world. And basically, I have an intro video that I would play, but that would not stop us. I would just read what we do. Normally, the video should have come up, but due to the technical issues, but I will just read it. Hi, you're welcome to Making a Difference with Sandra Ukoh. I believe there's a giant in you waiting to be discovered and a nest. You have within you right now all that you need to become that change agent and the best versions of you that God has called you to be. It is time to ignite you and discover your greater potential and to see the possibilities that exist within you to help you maximize your potential through this unique platform for mentoring, training, teaching, and coaching people on how they can become better versions of themselves after trauma, trial in their finances, life, business, ministry, career, relationship, marriage, and a lot more. At Making a Difference with Sandra Ukoh Live Show, we leverage the power of storytelling, coaching and mentorship, and value creation to help bring about the best in people and the people will bring on this platform. And this shows requires bringing us to assessing our value system and the process of recreation of a good value system to help shape our thoughts through the guests that will bring on this platform. This process opens our eyes to new strategies, information, valuable perspectives that would help us define and refine our value system with more clarity on our why. We need to know our why. Why am I here? And what have I been called to do? What have I been called to solve? To help people live with a mindset, begin with the end in mind, and to stand out in whatever endeavors they embark on. So I want to thank you for being on this show. I'd like to know where you're connecting from so that you can be welcome. Let me know. Let me have your name and where you're connecting from. And before I bring in our guests, Mr. Ferreira, I'd like to just read a short bio how Afro Ferreira was born in Natal, Brazil. Afro's family migrated to United States of America when he was 4 years old. He grew up in Pasadena area and attended school of Cal Poly Pomona as a communication major. Afro Ferreira began his leadership work with the YMCA at the age of 15 and has continually worked his way as a servant leader at various not-for-profit organizations. He is currently a district executive with the Scouts as well as the Youth Development Professional and Certified Coach, Speaker, and Trainer through the John C. Maxwell Leadership Team. He has been a host for the Youth Development Professional Podcast and redesigned the curriculum for Olympic archery in schools program funded by the Eastern Sport Development Foundation. The proudest moment of his life as follows: the days his children, Alec, Kelly, and Brian, were born, and the day he was married to his wife, Leanne, and finally the day he became an American citizen. That's awesome. Great to have you, sir.
Thank you so much,
I'm
Sandra.
excited.
And please call me Al. Yeah, I appreciate it. Uh, I look forward to engaging with you and having a great conversation about leadership and making a difference. I love that that's the title of your show, and it's truly inspiring for all of us.
Thank you so much. I appreciate. I want to welcome you and I thank you. I know you have your schedules are so busy. You have so much you're doing and getting you. It took me over a year to reach out to you. You remember the first time I got in touch with you?
Yes, we were on that on the
Change your word.
Maxwell Change Your World program together, and we chatted then. I've more than anything, I've had some health challenges over the last year and a half that
Oh,
have prevented me from uh, from being able to do as much as I want to. But
okay.
I'm glad we're finally together and able
Yeah.
to move forward. So
Yeah, glory to God that you were able to make it this time around. Thank you.
absolutely.
I actually want to just find out from you. I just read your bio. Is there anything you want to share with us? How you're making a difference in your work before I go into the questions for today? Can you share with us where and how you're making a
Yeah,
difference?
absolutely. I always go back. I have had the honor to be of service to over 54,000 young people through summer camp and outdoor environmental education experiences, yeah, either through the YMCA or the Scouts or 4-H, and it's been the work of my life to be able to work with young people and provide a place where they can not only be safe in an outdoor environment, but learn leadership skills and develop to be the best versions of themselves. So, I love that work. I love the opportunities that it's given myself and my family. We've lived in basically four different parts of the country
Yeah,
following that career and that service.
yeah, that's awesome. I like to find out what informed all the gathering of your degrees, all the learning, because I know there's something that's always, pushing one to wanting to gather more knowledge. I want to find out what informed all the gathering of the knowledge while the training with John Maxwell, going to school. I I'm asking this question because we found that this generation have a lot of distraction around them. They have the social media, they have the phones, they have the games and so many things distracting them. Unlike when we went to school, we had no access to phones. But this time around, you find out that even a toddler has a phone and is exposed to too much of information. So that's why I want to find out from you what informed all the gathering of knowledge. You find out that the youth of these days, some of them don't want to read. They just felt that once they're making money, I think that's the end. What else do you need again? Since you are in money.
Yeah, yeah, and as you say that, I said in part of my introduction, I love the fact that kids can come into the outdoors and learn to be the best version of themselves, as
Yeah.
opposed to living their best lives. I see that a lot in social media, where people will post a picture of themselves wearing, you know, fine clothes, or they're on a vacation and it's living my best life. I would rather be a person who tries to achieve to be the best version of myself than to be living my best life. There's a subtle difference in that.
Sure.
Uh,
There is.
to answer your question, I have been a lifelong learner, and I think my parents inspired that. My dad was always after my sister and I to go to college and get a degree and better ourselves. I remember in fifth grade, I got my mother gave me a dictionary for my birthday. So, a fifth grade, I'm 10 years old, 9, 10 years old, and I get this dictionary. But the dictionary was also, I had to sit down every day and write down 10 words out of the dictionary and
Wow.
their meaning, and use them in a sentence. And
Mhm.
I had to do that till I went through the entire dictionary, and part of it was, not being a native born speaker of English. I spoke Portuguese for the first 4 years of my life. Uh, you know, I had to learn how to speak English fairly quickly, because the very next year I was in kindergarten in school in America, and in the United States, and I had to know how to speak that. So those roots of that kind of informed education really pushed me and drove me to want to to write and to read. And so I've always written things down. I've always collected writings. I've always
Mhm.
been an avid reader. And what I went to college, Sandra, on the 7.5 year plan. Uh,
Oh,
in order to get my 4-year degree, it took me 7.5 years because, at the time, this is like the early 1980s, 82, 83, 85. Um, I had to stop work for a while to get enough money to continue college. And so I spent a lot of time, achieving that degree. And once I finally completed college, it's like, oh, there's more. There's so much more to learn. And I've just always been inspired to be a lifelong learner. So I've always been reading. I discovered John Maxwell probably about 24 years ago when somebody gave me a book, and I thought, "Who is this guy?" And I started reading all his leadership books. And then in 2014, I went to become a certified coach and trainer for the Maxwell Leadership Organization. And I found that all the things that he wrote or continues to write, like the 21 Laws of Leadership. I
yeah,
found
that's a great book.
it's a great book. I've read it multiple times. I carry the 21 Laws on cards with me all the time. I
Mhm.
have these green cards. They're clipped together, and there's a card for each one, reminding me of what they're. But in going through the 21 Laws of Leadership, it was so evident to me that my work in camp and outdoor environmental education and youth development, we were doing all those things, those 21 laws, the 15 laws of teamwork. We did aspects of all those things in the work I was already doing. So John Maxwell really, leveled it up for me and said, "Oh, I can do even more. I can do all these additional things." So I would get excited. I get excited about leadership and especially work with young people and making a difference in their lives. Now I work to serve others, to lead and serve others. So I work
Yeah.
less with young people, although in about an hour at 6:30 tonight, I'm on East Coast time. In 6:30 tonight, I'm going to just a few miles away from here to work with 8 teenagers on doing a diversity, equity, and inclusion session for an hour and a half. So I still get opportunities to work with the young people, but more often than not, I'm working with the people who work with the younger people. So,
No, that's awesome.
yeah,
Yeah, it's so great what you just discussed now. You spoke about, helping the young ones. They actually very, very love. It's a lovely and a great, achievement when you work with young minds because you're trying to mold them. Some of them are yet to be formed, and you are helping to shape their future. And you can imagine you working with all the coaches who work with the younger ones. You are building up a generation of, leaders. Like I earlier said, you cannot feature in a future you don't picture. Like what you're doing right now. You are, you're picturing what generation you're creating, as in you're looking at, oh, this is what I want to create. And you're already featuring in it. You understand that? Which is a great one. That's a great one for me. Like I saw that your parents, gave you that great foundation. They gave you a dictionary. But these days, you find that if our kids are celebrating, is either we're getting an iPhone, we're getting a game pad or something. It is not something that would help you, improve your learning. Like you got a dictionary at the age of 9, 10 years. That formed a very great foundation for you to start, learning big grammars, trying to, understand English, trying to journal. Those were the things that pushed you up to learning, and you became a lifelong learner. And that's what we ought to be. It is said that a leader is one who knows the way and show others, just like you're showing others. You are teaching the younger ones, and you're training them to be in that position to help others coming behind them, so they can become role models in their chosen field, wherever they find themselves, because they are being trained, they are being coached. You get what I mean? So, which is a
absolutely.
great one. It's a great one because he said there's a word I actually got today when I was reading. He said today's readers is tomorrow leader,
Mhm.
meaning that if you read today, you are tomorrow's leader. You're the future leader. Meaning, if
Abs-
you don't read, you can lead anywhere.
mhm.
And it is said that you lead out of the heart. What do you have inside of you? You can't give what you don't have. Like a computer, it says Garbage in, garbage out. It is what you put inside of yourself that you give out in return. So if you don't read, if you're an empty vessel, of course, there's nothing you're going to pass on to others. But because you're a lifelong learner, you're being exposed to a lot of knowledge gathering events, transformational events. You are passing it on to the younger generation, and you're building a generation. Like John Maxwell will always say, when you see value in yourself and value yourself, then you can affect your environment. Then you can pass value to someone else. If you don't have value in yourself, you're not going to value anyone around you. So by the way, because you've seen value in yourself, you that's why you're adding more value to yourself, and that's why you're able to affect your environments. So a lot of times I tell people, I say, what you leave, what do you want posterity to know you for? When you're no longer here, what do you want people to remember you for? So what we do today speaks for us years to come. Just like you rightly said, that you teach these younger ones and not just being living their best life, but being their best version, where they are actively participating. And we find that now, because a lot of social media and phones and everything, they are on their phones and they are glued to games. If they're not on game, they're on their phone, they're on the internet. But actually, they are not even interacting. Yes, they might be having the best of life, wearing the best of clothes, but they are not the best versions of themselves. Like you rightly said, bringing them on the field, taking them on the camp, having them to express their true self. Then you can say their best version is being unveiled. Thank you so much for that. I think I've also gleaned from you on that aspect that it's not just about giving them the best of lives, but giving them an opportunity to express themselves in a public forum, in a camp, where they can express their true self. Thank you
Absolutely.
so much.
Absolutely. One of the things I find unusual about social media right now is how many young people call themselves influencers. They want to be social media influencers. And Sandra, you and I both know that John Maxwell says, leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less.
Yeah,
It's one of my favorite quotes that John uses. And I find it interesting that they are, again, more about influencing what they're wearing, what they're carrying, what they're sharing, and as opposed to what they're actually doing. Just because somebody makes a comment on social media that they are for or against something doesn't make them a leader in that influencing way.
yeah.
But because they're wearing this clothes, they're using this phone, they're sharing this item in this place, they are thinking that
But
they're an
Ferreira, you,
influence.
you understand what I mean?
It,
Influence could be in two ways. It could be positive influence and also negative influence.
yeah.
You could be an influencer, but your influence, you want to find out what side are you influencing? Are you influencing the positive or the negative? So we need to also define what kind of influence we want to impact in our community. Is it a positive? Is it a negative? Like you rightly said, some people think it's the things they say, the clothes they wear, the things they are found doing is what really influences people. So I
I,
think you want to speak on that.
yeah. Again, it's fascinating to me that people get paid to, again, wear something, carry something, share something, when that's the impact they're having. They're getting paid to wear a brand as opposed. And here I'm wearing my Illinois dad shirt today, but I'm proud of that my daughter graduated with her master's from Illinois, from Champaign Urbana. So, but anyway, my point is, young people have to understand that influence is about how you are transforming people's lives, and it's not about a transaction. It isn't about buying that piece of clothes or those shoes or that phone. It's about transforming people's lives to uh, have them have the greatest impact and service to other people. I tell my kids all the time, when you're feeling down, go help somebody, go
Yeah,
serve somebody, because that there's nothing greater than helping somebody else out. And it just and my wife and I, we talk about, we wanted to raise good human beings that went out into the world. And I've seen all three. I have three kids, and as you described in the intro, and thank you again for that. Um, and I'd like to believe they all help other people out in their own ways. It just my oldest son would give his shirt off his back to somebody. When he was in first grade, and he's 28 years old now, but when he was in first grade, one of the things that he did is he got we were living further away, so some family members sent money and birthday cards for his birthday that year, and so my wife bought him a wallet to put the money in. And he went to class in first grade, and he was showing the kid sitting next to him his wallet, and that he had a $10 bill in there. And the kid next to him said, wow, I've never gotten $10 before. And he takes the $10 and gives it to that kid.
Wow.
At first grade, he has done that his entire life, where he sees somebody and they are in need or looking for help, and he's a great empath in that he will sense that somebody needs help, and then he goes and helps them. It's really a gift to him. As a young person, I'm so proud of that. So, and I could tell you stories about each one of my kids like that, where and they've had the absolute very unique situation. We lived and worked at camps for the better part of all their childhood. So when my 28-year-old was 3 years old, we moved to a camp in the mountains in Southern California. And if you can imagine yourself flying over mountains and you see that pinpoint of light, and you look down and you go, I wonder who lived there. That was us. We lived, at 7,000 feet above sea level in the San Bernardino Mountains, running a YMCA camp. And that's where they grew up. And then we moved, 6 years later, we moved to Florida, and we were there for 5 years. And then we moved to upstate New York, and we were at that camp for 8 years. So 6 years, 5 years, and 8 years, that's their entire childhood, young adulthood, where they lived and were part of a camp community. Because the work that we did, that you lived where you worked, they provided a house and all that. So they had this unique experience of growing up like that and becoming learners in their own way, whether they're learners of service like my oldest son, or my daughter who has this great educational research mind and things, and my youngest son who's in college now. He just turned 20, so I no longer have teenagers at home. God bless.
Awesome.
Our youngest is 20.
Yeah.
He is there learning to, he wants to change the world through urban design and sociology. It just, they all have this unique perspective that I don't think other kids have had. But they've also lost some perspective as well. They never lived in a neighborhood, like we live now. It just, we live in a small town in upstate New York, and it's a village. It's not even a town. There's 4,000 people. So it's just, a beautiful place to be. Anyway, my whole point was that young people have these misconceived opportunities about influence, and I wish that they would learn more about transformational leadership, as opposed to that transactional, you got to buy something to get something. It's just, I want my kids, and I hope my kids, will remember for the rest of their lives. It's when you serve others, you grow within yourself. You become a better person.
Yeah.
Service.
Yeah, you said it all, because rightly when you were saying about when you're in pain, when it is said that hurting people hurt people. Yeah, but as leaders, we go beyond ourselves. It is when you're hurting the most that you go out to serve. Look beyond yourself. And in serving others, you help yourself, you grow yourself.
Right.
Because a lot of times we think, oh, I'm helping, I'm giving all my time, I'm actually losing time. You're actually gaining time in the sense that you're serving others. You're growing yourself while serving them.
Mhm.
So in giving, you get much more. Because I also learned that when the people who do not give out, who are not available to serve, they do themselves great injustice. Because one, they do not impact anyone. And at the same time, they are not growing. They live in a solitary life. But as leaders, when we go out of our way to be a blessing by serving others, which we are all called to be, leaders are servants. Leaders serve. So if you're not serving in whatever capacity you find yourself, you're not yet a leader. A leader goes out of his way to give back to his community, to serve, just like Jesus did serve. We must be found serving in different capacity. It might be in a church setting, it might be in, like you said, and whatever you want your kids to do, you model it. Just like you rightly said, what you and your wife find yourself doing, you're doing them a great, you're planning their life in a great way because they are watching you. They're seeing what you're doing. They're seeing what mommy and what daddy is doing. So they tend to grow to become better versions of you. So that's why,
Absolutely.
what you want your kids to emulate is what you do. Kids tend to keep what they see in their memory rather than what you tell them to do. I learned that, an example is worth more than an advice.
Hmm.
Did you get what I mean?
Yeah,
An
absolutely.
example. You're modeling a character and a lifestyle to a child. It is worth more than you just saying it. I
Hmm.
want you to be a good girl. I want you to be a good boy. I want you to read your books. It is worth more than when you take the book and you are reading and you are writing. They are watching you. Because you think that's why you find that even in young adults, when they're growing in school, they use a lot of pictures. They use a lot of illustration to teach them because
Hmm.
they tend to stay more in their memory than when they write. So whatever you model to your kids is what they emulate. And that's why they said charity begins at home. You understand? It is what they pick from home. They go out there to show the world, to say, oh, this is what I've been trained in the last 20 years of my life. And so that's why, as parents, or as, guardian, as leaders that God has called us to be a good example wherever we find ourselves. Yes, there may not be anyone watching you, but what are you doing? Would you be able to stand to say that this is what, can you tell your kids that this is what you're doing, even when no one is watching? And that's why integrity comes in. Integrity is who you are when no one is watching you, who you are when nobody knows you, but you're acting the way you are meant to act as a leader. So are we living a life of integrity? Just like you mentioned rightly on social media, a lot of people come to just show up, say things, but they are truly not those people. But they're just trying to see, okay, how many followers can I get? But being your true self, being a true influencer, being that character that you're trying to portray is what is integrity. Who are you when no one is watching? What do you do in dark areas when you're just the only one? Or you're in a city where you don't know anyone? What do you do? What would you say you were doing? So that was a great one for me. Leaders transforming other leaders. Our lives are meant to transform and impact our generation. So if you're not impacting your generation, so what are you found? What would you be called? What have you been called? And that's why I tell people, you must understand your why. Why are you here? What's your passion about life? What have you been called to do? Until you discover who you are. And that's when you begin to live life. A lot of times we find that people have not discovered themselves. And that's why we have a lot of vices. People picking up characters, picking up things. The moment you know who you are, when people come to try to influence you, you speak out from what you have been formed because you already know I am this. This is what I've been called to do. I understand why I am here. And you're living out what you have been called to do. Thank you for that, clarification, that discussion. I also want to find out during your process of growing up, when you had negative moments, low moments, how did you weather the storm? How did you come out of your trauma, your trial, to becoming successful, growing up to becoming who you're called out to be?
I, you know, I I've always had that definition of, wanting to be successful. I know my dad was a very driven person, where the dollar meant a lot to him, where money meant a lot to him. Um, uh, uh, it just I've redefined success, using one of John Maxwell's term is that I've, been significant in so many lives, and I find that
Mhm.
so much more rewarding than success. Now, again, I slipped in there already once. And I'm proud of the fact I've had the opportunity to serve over 54,000 young people, in an outdoor, environmental leadership, uh, capacity, whether it's summer camp or outdoor, environmental education, or scouting, or those types of things. And one of the best things, Sandra, is that, I've been able to serve those who are now doing the same work and growing themselves in that. I've been working on an article, for a few months, for my blog, and I still got a ways to go. But I've identified about 11 young people, and I say young because they're, I'm 58. I'm going to be 59 later this year. So these are young people between their 20s and their 40s, mid
Wow.
40s, who are now pursuing youth development work in their own capacity as professionals. They're making a living out of doing the kind of work that I've been dedicating my life to, is serving young people. And so I'm excited that that's out there, that there's young people out there who want to continue to do, the same kind of work, whether they're millennials or X's or Y's or whatever the current, lingo is about the different generations. I'm glad to see that there's young people out there doing that. Um, so the really, to answer your question about, how I overcame some trials and tribulations. I was the short Portuguese kid, who had no real significant skills. I did well in school, but you know it wasn't until I got to camp, as a teenager, and so these wonderful people out there, these, big, tall people with curly hair playing guitars with long, tanned legs. And okay, I had the curly hair at the time. I'm not tall. I don't have long, tan legs, and I could never figure out how to play the guitar. So, I, I had to discover different ways to lead and be a leader, and that's always been through service. So, I was reminded over and over again that, I was not in the group. I was someone from the outside. I was, again, that short Portuguese kid from Brazil. I was always on the outside. I wasn't one of them. I remember at one point in time having the CEO of a large organization that I met in Los Angeles, tell me, "Well, you'll never work for us because you're just not the right type." And it's like I met the guy 5 minutes and he already assessed that somehow or another, whatever he saw in me, I wasn't the right type to work for them. And what I heard was short Portuguese kid, you know.
Wow.
That was in my head for a very long time, is
Mm-mm.
that I'm never going to be good enough for
No,
some
that was pretty negative.
it's and there was just incident after incident after incident like that, because uh, but that drove me to want to, be
Mm.
more inclusive, bring more people in, so that kids that were outside wouldn't feel that way, and creating an
Yeah.
environment, creating a space for them, creating a place for them, finding the money to
Mm.
get them to our camp programs, and of those 54,000 kids, that's about 45% of them,
Mm.
at some point in time came on some sort of financial assistance that I, well, along with my team, help raise the money to bring them to those experiences. And, that made a huge, that early trauma drama of my life became a huge influencer in how I would operate from then until now.
That's awesome. I like what, sometimes, we think failure is bad. And I tell people, I said failure, like John Maxwell will always tell you, failure is good because you learn more from failure. Like you rightly said, success is not a destination, it is never ending. You keep aspiring to become, it's a lifelong journey as long as you live. And it is said that failure, it's you learn more from failure than you learn in success. He said because failure will bring you back to your drawing board to see, oh, what did I do wrong? How can I correct my mistakes so that I can be successful? But if you allow success get into your head, you become prideful, and that can bring you back on your knees.
Mhm.
So that can bring you back down. So, oftentimes he said, keep failure and success together, for they keep you resilient. So once you fail, you keep striving hard to becoming successful. You keep trying. And that is what you call resilience. You fail, but you never give up. You pick yourself again and you keep running. And rightly, you said you are impacting generations who are impacting other generations. And that's what we call multiplying leader. You're not just, getting all the knowledge and doing everything yourself, but you are grooming other generation who will groom other generations. So it's going to be a multiplying effect. And you know what multiplication does? It goes beyond a geometric progression.
Yeah.
It becomes like a chain reaction. People keep multiplying themselves, they keep, expanding. It's not an addition process where you say one plus one is two. But where you have, multiplication happening, people are growing and people are multiplying themselves, people are impacting the generation. Before you know it, you have a world of difference where everyone is a leader. Everyone see themselves as leaders and they are influencing everyone. They're influencing the environments. You rightly said there is nothing fulfilling. There is nothing fulfilling than what you're doing. You might not be getting the right pay for what you do, but there's nothing fulfilling seeing you change lives of human. You
Right.
know, there's nothing more fulfilling. You're doing it says that no leader got good at doing anything for the first time once. So whatever you did and you never got right in the first place, when you do it often and over, you get good by doing it over and over. And what happens is you have a compounding effect because you did it the first time, it wasn't well, you didn't do it right. The second time you improve in doing it, the third time you get good. And as you keep doing it over time, you get good. And that's what we'll talk about the compounding effects.
Yeah.
Over time you get good at what you do. So, and I doff my hat and I want to say, you were so strong. Some people would have allowed the negative statement that guy said to bring them down. And that's why I tell people there are two things that happen to a man when a word is said. Is either those words make you better or those words mar you. So you either choose what way you want it to do. And like you likely did, you picked it and you got better.
Mhm.
That drove you, you know, to start improving and doing more for yourself. But some people will get depressed and say, I'm good for nothing. I cannot make it in life. I'm downcasted. The man rightly said it. And maybe that's why I'm not having the right friends. Maybe that's why I'm not making money like my friends. But you took it in good stride and you improved yourself. You got better. And you can imagine, I'm sure, if you look back to the year or when that guy said that words to you, you would have laughed at it and said, and you'll be glad that you never allowed this to keep you from moving ahead.
Right.
So whatever we allow is what make us. So you decide today, what would you allow? What has somebody said to you that's affecting you negatively, that is making you not to come out of your shell? Look at the other way and say, what can I do better to get good and go against what that person said? That was a great one, sir. Failure is best for you. Not that I wish anyone to fail, but when you fail, you learn more.
I,
Yes,
I,
success is
I
where we're all striving to be, but you learn more when you have make mistakes. I've seen matches, soccer players come to field. The very first match they had, they won. And if you're not careful, you'll find that such matches, they lose all the other matches because pride got into them. They felt they were very good. But I've seen people who played match. The first game was not so good, but you find that they went back. Maybe their coach had to, speak to them, give them some pep talk, and encourage them. They got back to the field. All the subsequent times, they won their games because they went back to like, what can we do differently? How do we improve on what we did the last time? And so they got better and got good, and they got winning all their games. So as much as we strive to be successful, we should leave the level of being a success to living a life of significance. We're not just being successful, but we're trying to give back from the little we've gathered, the experience we've gathered, to giving back to our community. Like what Ferreira is doing right now. He's training all the people, and they are training others. And it's just a matter of time where we'll have a word of difference. People making a difference in their world. You want to say something? I saw that you want to.
I did. It's just to echo what you're saying. And by the way, I've had my moments of being depressed and upset, and I've learned from that. It just and you choose your attitude. That's one of the things. And so I try to start every day by choosing my attitude. I read positive information. I have my morning prayer time where I fill myself up with positive things, positive stories, positive blessings, positive things that helps me overcome throughout the day those challenges and those things. And that took a long time to build that up. Like you said, the best way that I have learned is through my own mistakes and failure. I've learned more that way, or I've also learned from watching other people make mistakes. And some of the worst people I've ever worked with, as far as being these hierarchical, dictator, micromanaging people, I've learned how to not be that person. And sometimes I've made the mistake of thinking that some of the things that they're doing were good and positive. And then I learned that, oh my gosh, I've been doing this for 5 years and I've got it all wrong. And then I go back and reinvent myself and come up with a different way of doing things. So yeah, absolutely. Mistakes. And it's not that I'm in some great, wonderful world out here where
But
where
you
everything
remember
goes
that there's a
my way.
word in.
There's always challenges. There's always
There
challenges.
would be, as long as you're alive.
Yeah,
There is no, I don't think there's anyone living on this planet that has no challenges or one circumstance. Either you're leaving one, entering another one, or you're coming out from one. You
that's it.
never find a man who is without challenges or obstacles. It's either you're just getting out of one or you're entering one. And that's what it is. Gets you promoted in school? It is when you pass an exam, you're being lifted to the next class,
Correct.
showing that if you fail that exam, you would have to repeat the class.
Mhm.
So life is about, different obstacles, different tests and a temptation, which we have to overcome in order for us to be promoted to the next level. And that's what comes even with God. We'll go through a training process to get good. We have challenges that we'll all go through. But sometimes God is preparing us for the generations coming behind us.
Right.
When we go through challenges, it actually shows who you are made of, what you are truly made of, whether you're not the person to be trusted. And when you go through challenges, not allowing it to throw you into depression and getting out of it, you're able to, you're able to aspire to do more things. You move on in life to achieving more. And there's this motivation. Oh, it's just like you winning a medal. What happens to you? You're excited and you're happy that, oh, I did this and I got it, and that's what happened with our kids too. When they're doing well, you need to appreciate them. Yes, they may not be 100% well, but the little improvement they are getting, you need to, appreciate them. And that will keep them, striving to do more. But when you castigate a child and you run him down, you throw that child into a state of depression. He feels like, oh, I'm nothing good. My dad or mom doesn't appreciate me. I don't think I can do anything good that they would like. But when you get wrong, yes, I know you did wrong, but I know that you can improve. I know there are better ways for you to do it. And I know the next time you do it, you're going to get good at it. That child becomes self-motivated. That child wants to try it out again. That the mom says, if I make an attempt again, I'm going to get good. And that child keeps striving. And that's the same thing that happened to a toddler, a baby that tries to work. He picks up himself, works a bit, falls down, get up again, try to make the steps again. If you scream at that child may never get to work. But because we cheer them up and say, oh, you're working, that motivates them to keep striving and, putting one leg forward and keep coming to you. And before you know it, they have a strong feeling. They can run, they can jump, and they are happy that they're achieving and they are growing. There is nobody who finds themselves somewhere and you're not growing. If you're not careful, you get into a state that you wouldn't like. Either you get depressed, unhappy with yourself, and you don't make any improvements. Like you rightly said, your attitude determines your altitude. How do you take things to life? What do people say to you that gets you worked up? And you also said, learn from others. And that's what this platform is all about. We bring people to share their stories so that we don't have to reinvent the wheel. I know what you've done in past, and I know what failures you encountered. Because I am a friend to you, I want to learn from your mistakes. I don't need to reinvent the wheel. You wouldn't watch me fall into those pitfalls you did fell into because you want me to get good. So that's what life is all about. We need mentors. We need people, coaches, people who you can, aspire. Oh, I want to be like this person. I want to read about their biography. What did they do? And they got it right. What can I do now to be like them or even better than them? So we do not need to wait to fall into the same pitfalls they fell into in time past. We can learn from their mistakes and get good and fly. Because a lot of times people who tend to be on their self, they don't want to associate with anybody. They are such people. They reinvent the wheel because there's nobody to show them the road. And that's why we said leaders are those who know the road and are willing to show others. Some leaders, I won't call them leaders, know the way, but they want audit. They don't want others to know. They want others to suffer for it. But once you know the way, you want to show it to others. That's when you're called to be a leader because you want to serve others. You want to help them, not to repeat the same mistakes you made in time past. That was a great one, sir. And I'm sure that I gleaned and I got some good nugget from.
Thank you.
Yeah. And when you had great moments, how did you celebrate? Because in goal setting, in all the things we're doing in life, when we have successes, when we achieve something, we need to celebrate. For some of us, it will help us, it will motivate us to do more. But some people will tell you, no, it's too much. And I often tell people, I say, when you're in a team, you want your team to understand that they're making an effort. You want them to appreciate their work and appreciate themselves. When things got good for you, how did you celebrate?
I think the uh, one one of the things that I've always said, and again, being a camp director, being a leader at camp for so long, camp is about beginnings and endings, and how we begin and how we end is just as important as all the stuff that happens in the middle, if not more so.
Yeah.
And so, I've always ended, any season, any uh, uh, success, any achievement with some sort of celebration, an
Yeah.
actual celebration where we
Good.
get together, we have a meal, we have, we gather around a table, one of the things I find inspiring is finding what other people have contributed and sharing other people's
Okay.
success to the greater good,
Yeah.
and so always working with teams of young people. I find that that's so motivating to me, is to see these young people who are out there giving their all, doing so much. When you work at a summer camp, it's it's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, or as I call it,
Yeah.
25/8. Because if you're always on, there's always people there, and so you see each other at your best, you see each other at your worst, and then when you do have a success, when it could be the most minute thing, and it could just be that you've gotten that homesick kid through an entire week of camp when they thought they were going to go home on Tuesday, and they've just made it all the way to the next Saturday. That's a successful achievement, and you can feel good
Sure.
about something like that. So in response to your question, I celebrate success by celebrating,
Oh,
sitting around
that's
with
a good
people
one.
and saying, "Hey, we did a good thing. We did some good work." And given the seasonal nature of the type of work that I've done, um, whether it's a school year or a summer program or a week long outdoor education program with a bunch of fifth graders, I always debrief by celebrating, by doing something together where we highlight
Mm.
what we've done and the achievement that we've had. Yes, we've had challenges. Yes, we've made mistakes. Yes, we've done all these things, but let's talk about and end on a good note,
Yeah.
on a celebration. So,
Yeah. You said it all. Ending on a good note. Looking at the best in all the people, the team you're working with, and leveraging on their success, their strong points. But that's a great one. Ending on a good note. I want to say thank you. And before we call it a day, I think we've overshoot our time. I want to find out, do you have any unique story you want to share? Something that would be a great story for some of our viewers who are just joining in late. Could,
mhm.
that may be a takeaway from there for them. Do you have any unique story you want
I,
to share?
some of the best stories that I have are about the young people that I've had the opportunity to work with, and all that stems from opportunities in my own life. And I remember being that 20-year-old kid who I was at camp, I for a summer session, and my friend Mike was the junior leader with me, and we had a group of 10 fifth grade boys at that time. This is like 1983 or 84, I don't know, and and we had like a break time, and it was raining, so we were in the shower building so that we can stay dry while we were on break, while somebody else was watching that group of kids for us. And the camp director walked in. His name is Ron Perry, and Ron was a big, huge guy with big curly hair, and he was always very gregarious and outgoing. And he walked in. He's, "How's it going, guys? I just wanted to check in on you," and and he just kind of up talked us about how great we were doing in that week. Even though it was a rainy day, we were tired. 10-year-old boys are quite a lot of energy. And and he, he said, "Tell you what, you guys stay here another 20 minutes. I'm going to go watch your cabin for you." And out of nowhere, he pulls out 2 root beers and hands them to us. He had them in his back pocket the whole time. And said, "You stay here for 20 more minutes and take a little bit more time." And he walked out of the room, and I turned to my friend Michael, my junior leader, and I said, "Someday I want his job." Because it wasn't about what we were doing, it was about what he said and did made me feel so good about myself and the work that I was doing that I wanted to do that for more people. And
Yeah.
there's that saying about 100 years from now, it won't matter what you wore, what you did, but people will always remember how
You
you
for
made them
something.
feel about themselves. It just to paraphrase Maya Angelou, but it just I wanted to do that for everybody. And I've aspired to be as good as he is. He's still around, that guy. He's long retired, but yeah, I've always wanted to do that for others, and if I've been able to do that for the 11 people that are now working in youth development work as well, that I've been able to work with and serve, then fantastic. I'm multiplying what he multiplied for me.
Awesome. That's a great one. And there's this saying to me that says, if you don't live an inspired life, you'll live an expired life.
Yeah.
So you rightly said it. The summary of your story was he inspired you. And
Mhm.
that inspiration is what is keeping you and helping you to inspire others. And you want to be like him. And I'm sure you want to be greater than him. You want to be able to inspire more people. And this inspired people, inspiring more people coming. That's a great one. Life is meant to live, living an inspiration for others. Let others look at your life and say, I want to be like you. I want to learn what you know. I want to be better than you. And that for me, that's a great one. Living a life that inspires others, living a life that, spur people to want to becoming their best versions, spur people to want to be to, live in the best version of their life. And making the world a better place for everyone, such that people around you can testify that, oh my God, having Ferreira around inspires me. I'm always happy when I get around him. I do more when I see him because you have this sort of inspiration. You inspire them to do their best and to become their best version. I want to thank you for being on this show. I also want to thank our viewers. I want to thank everyone that joined today. Thank you so much for your time. I want to thank you. I know your schedule was really tight. Last week when I was chatting you said you were driving down from Canada and the traffic was really killing. I
Oh my God,
knew,
it was awful. Yeah.
yeah, well, great to have you on this show today. And thank you so much. And do have a blessed day.
Thank you, Sandra, so much for your time as well. And it's just been so therapeutic talking to you. It's like a therapy session. So I appreciate all that you do and say.
Thank you. And to call it a day, I don't know if you have a story somehow, some of our viewers watching us, you have a great story and you want to inspire us, you want to inspire other generation, you feel led to, sharing your story. You might want to share your story on my platform. You can reach out by sending me a mail at info at sandraukoh.com, or you leave me a comment on this session. I'll be able to reach out to you. I'll be able to reach out to you.
God bless,
Thank you.
Sandra.